you doing? My name is Anthony Nolan. I am the state representative for New London, Connecticut, and I want to welcome you to Rollin with State Rep Nolan. We are here on Farmington Ave once again, but this time we are with the Chief Public Defender's Office, and I am excited because a lot of constituents have asked, what is the Chief Public Defender's job? So I'm here with our Chief Public Defender, Tashawn Bowden-Lewis, and please, can you say hello and then share what your office does?
Definitely. Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it very much. So again, my name is Tashawn Bowden-Lewis, and I am the Chief Public Defender from the state of Connecticut. And I am so honored to have the position because I am the first Black person to ever hold this position within the history of the entire state. So it's a huge and tremendous honor and privilege to be able to start this trail and hopefully pass on some great things for the next generation. So here I am.
So can you explain public defender?
Sure, of course.
So people can know what that is.
Of course. Okay, so first let me just let you know that I've been a public defender for my entire legal career, which is almost 27 years. Public defenders represent those who have criminal charges. So we're criminal defense attorneys. We represent people who are indigent, those who are not able to afford to hire a private attorney.
Okay, so that means someone goes and unfortunately sometimes they commit some kind of crime and they need someone to defend them and they can't financially get an attorney or someone to represent them. How do they get appointed a public defender? What has to happen?
Sure. So anytime there's a criminal arrest, a person is going to be brought in front of the court at some point in time, whether it be a summons or an actual taken into custody in that kind of a situation or given a promise to appear. But once you come to court, you are able to fill out an application office to determine your eligibility to see if you are financially eligible to receive our. And so we represent those who are indigent. We represent children and adults, and our advocacy covers everything from delinquency defense, child protection, family support magistrate matters, as well as, we have a habeas unit, an appellate unit here. The Innocence Project for Connecticut is under us as well, too. So you would apply once you come to court. And if you're found eligible, then you will receive us as your advocate, your attorney who will be with you throughout the remainder of the case.
Now, you talked about habeas. Can you explain what habeas is so people know?
Sure. So if a person feels they have an issue with representation, if their attorney was ineffective, normally they're doing some sort of jail time at that point in time. So if they feel there was an issue with representation or with what happened, then they have the opportunity to file motions to have a habeas trial, which would determine whether or not there's an issue, go from there.
So there is a way for those who have attorneys that are not doing their job. There's a way for them to get relief.
There's also a grievance. A person can also go on the judicial website and fill out the forms if they feel that, again, if whether they're incarcerated or whether they're out, that the services rendered by the attorney was not up to par or there was issues. So they can also do that. There's a grievance committee here in Connecticut who reviews the complaint and will move forward at that point.
So just so people are clear with understanding that, there was a lot of questions that came up about having problems with some attorneys or some representation. So that is something that you can get assistance with through the Office of the Public Defender. So you do a lot of case management.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you said that from start to finish, you guys are really following up and making sure that people are covered with what they need.
I just want to interject one more thing too, that a person does have an issue with their attorney or representation, because we actually employ investigators, social workers. Feel free to reach out to me. I mean, that's what I'm here for. I mean, I have been the chief since 2022, midway through 2022. But I've been doing this for my entire career. And I know that we're not a perfect agency, but we are improving, we're growing, and we do offer the best criminal defense in the state of Connecticut. So I'm available to the public for them to reach out to me if they have an issue or concern, or just want to let me know even positive things. If an attorney or a social worker or investigator did a fantastic job, I want to hear about that too.
And before we go on, I do want to say this is one thing that I am so happy about when I met you, because you're very accessible.
Yeah.
And you've actually been to several communities.
Yes.
I know you've been to New London, and I know you're coming back.
Yes.
But that is one thing that I am so happy to hear you talk about, because it's not always that people in the positions that we're in
Yes.
make themselves accessible.
That's right.
And that is one thing that you do. So I want to thank you for that.
Thank you. Yes,
and
of
you
course.
did bring up investigative resources.
Yes.
So you have investigators.
That's correct.
And can you explain what the investigators do so that they
Sure.
can help those that need the assistance?
Okay, so we have a team concept. So as opposed to a private attorney who may not have resources, we have the attorney, the investigator, the social worker, and our clerical staff as well too. So the investigator is a part of the team. He, she, or they is going to help put the pieces of the puzzle back together, right? So that if there is a complaint, an alleged victim in a case, that person's going to go out on the street and is going to try to find witnesses, try to find or speak to the alleged victim or complainant as well with the defense of the case. So he, she, or they, again, is going to computer to find information, but they are out there to do the gritty work, the groundwork, the legwork to assist in a person's defense. So if it's knocking on the door, if it's going to the jail, and if it's traveling out of state, they are there to assist in that way.
Okay. And what about translations for those who don't have English speaking or don't speak English well? And that will roll right into some of our immigrants that live in Connecticut.
Yes.
And I always say, well, if you live in Connecticut, you're part of Connecticut.
That's right.
But sometimes because of their status, they can't get all the assistance that they need. So how do you help those that don't have or are not American citizens?
Right. A big portion of our clients are undocumented. And so again, it's if there's an arrest made, a criminal arrest that's made, then the person would still come before the judge and still apply for our services. It'd be the same process. But clearly if the person doesn't speak our language or speak English, then we will use resources to assist in making sure the communication is there. So there's no difference.
And that was some of the most asked questions about undocumented. And there was a lot of undocumented that are worried that once they try and get or call for assistance, some worried about deportation, some worried about ICE. I explained to them, I said, well, you're going to get the supports that you need.
That's right.
So I don't believe that those are things that you have to worry about.
That's right.
So I'm glad to hear that across the board, no matter who or where you come from, you get
the same level of service we do. And we also contract with a private attorney who specializes in immigration matters, so that if we have questions about, whether a person should plead to something, the repercussions of certain situations, the private attorney helps us with that so that deportation issues, immigration issues are addressed and the person's fully informed. A big barrier or some big barriers to population that we service are a lack of access, not enough resources, and lack of information. So we definitely do our best to make sure that each individual client and their families too have that information to make a sound decision on how they want to proceed with their case.
Okay. And another one of our questions that were asked have to do with systematic injustice, racial disparities in the criminal justice system. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because those are issues that people are concerned about and fear that when they get into something, they're trying to get out of it, that there's just some uncertainty when it comes to that.
Well, inherently, there's systemic problems that have been ingrained within our system, not only here in Connecticut, but nationwide. In sentencing practices, there are disparities in terms of treatment options and availability, and even mindset. Let's be real about that too, that if how a person looks, how a person's perception of somebody else plays a part in how the case is talked about sometimes, how the case is even resolved. And there's a thing called a trial tax. People don't even want to acknowledge that as well too, right? Where a person of color, there's more of a pressure to plead out a situation because, if you don't plead it out, you're going to be hammered at the trial situation. And that's a real fear, and it's something we're working on, trying to address as well too. But the systemic issues are there based on race, gender, identity, the whole thing, religious practices. It is across the board. It's not just race. That's why we as a public defenders division, are definitely trying to do more to be proactive to help eradicate systemic oppression.
Yeah. I get a lot of comments, whether it's on social network or in the midst of some kind of meeting or when we're trying to support anybody who gets in trouble. We don't say that people shouldn't be punished. We just want to make sure that people are punished fairly, so when it comes time for someone that unfortunately gets in trouble, we just want to make sure that, when they have to come up against what they have to come up against, it's done fairly.
That's right.
And that's what a lot of people fear, because that tends to happen with more Black and brown people.
That's being honest. I mean, sometimes there is a lack of parity in sentencing. So if you come from Greenwich, as opposed to coming from Bridgeport, there may be some differences in how your cases are handled and what's expected and what is thought about, and what's talked about.
Right. That's conversation that we need to have.
Yes.
And unfortunately for some, it's uncomfortable, but unfortunately it has to be uncomfortable in order for us to get through what we need to get through in order to deal with it. And it's, half the time it's not to blame anybody. It's to correct the things that have been just going on for so long.
That's right.
That people are comfortable with. Well, now we're trying to break that comfort level.
Correct.
And change it so that there's a lot of fairness and equality, to make it better.
That's right. Across the board.
Yeah. How do we let people know how to get in touch with your office?
Sure. Well, right now, let me first start by saying that I inherited a very firm foundation as a chief, right? But I am here, I'm tasked to take us to the next level. So part of the new vision for our agency is about rebranding and outreach. Community engagement is a huge thing. We have to be able to meet the clients outside of the courtroom setting to foster trust and for them to understand that we're accessible, that we are here, and it's not just, a file, that you are a human being who deserves dignity and respect, right? So as you've seen me out in the community, yes, a big thing for me is to have partnerships, collaborations with external stakeholders and established community providers so that it's easier for me to be able to bring more resources to the division employees to help our clients. But being in the community, if I'm going to, or someone in my office is going to a church or a community center or just any event, and being able to just talk to people. Because, we have to not only deal with the case, but we want to also inject hope, right? And help people, deter them from coming back into the system. We're poised. We are very privileged and poised to be able to assist in many different avenues. That's why I have new initiatives for our division. And that's why I'm passionate about what we do, because we are able to truly assist. And we're only here to serve. Public defenders are here to serve, and that's it.
Right. And you said new initiatives.
Yes.
Do you want to touch on those at all?
Of course. So one important thing would be a reentry unit for this division that's going to help with decreasing the amount of recidivism and increasing quality of life. So to have staff and people who are solely purposed here to assist our learners and our adults. So when their case is disposed of, whether your person gets a dismissal at arraignment or they do a 20-year bid, we're also helping them to get to providers, because there's things like mental health, food insecurity, reconnecting with your family, housing. And we know that there's probation and parole out there, and we know there's some things that DOC does too, but we can be a conduit to make sure that it really happens and to assist people to actually better their lives. And even, we have 1584s now, 23169, so people who were incarcerated at a very young age, but then have been in the system for like 20 or 30 years. When you get out, what do you do? So we are here to help that and to assist in that process. So yes, a reentry unit is something that we do need and something that I'm hopeful that we're going to be able to actually attain and to sustain for the community. And also, we as an agency need to have some sort of external affairs unit, which is some people call it a comms unit, a PR unit, those kind of things. Every state agency in Connecticut has one, but us. So that would be able, so our clients get the information they need. When I go to the Capitol to talk to legislators, I'm doing things like that. If a law passes, we need to be able to, in real time, get on social media and let people know this is what happened. This is how it affects you. This is the things you need to avoid. Also, if we are in the community, if I'm at the Boys and Girls Club somewhere, or if a person in the field is at the Boys and Girls Club, come on out and join us. If you want to speak to us outside of the court and you want to get some more information about what we do and how we can help you, come on out. So those are two initiatives that we're pushing forward and we're hopeful, and that comes to fruition. But we need buy-in from the community. We need people to say, yeah, those are good ideas, and we do want that information.
Well, I'll be looking forward to having that legislative discussion
Yes.
with you, because, those are things that we're going to be discussing in this session to come forward. So I'll be looking for that conversation.
Wonderful.
And I just want to thank you for taking the time to talk to us and inform the community about what you do and what your office does. And now, if people wanted to reach out to you,
Sure.
Is there an email that you want to share or a phone number that you want to share?
Sure. They can call 860-509-6429.
Okay.
All right. And you can reach me directly and then go from there.
Okay.
So please feel free to reach out. I do want to hear the feedback about what we're doing, how we're doing it. And I want you to know that we hear you and see you because we're here for you.
Right. So once again, this is Rollin with State Rep Nolan. We are here at the Chief Public Defender's Office, and we are just so grateful that she took the time to let you know what you wanted to know. And there are people that see you and want to hear from you. So please reach out if you need help. We are here for you. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Have a nice day.